So just for a quick debrief for listeners, this is based on psychology research done by a Berkeley professor. And she wrote a book about this parenting paradigm. So the spectrum of how people parent their kids. And I think her research was specific to the US. And so the Carpenters are, highly regimented, very meticulous, and they have goals in mind. This kid is going to have a 4.2 GPA and is going to get into every single Ivy League, and they choose of their will. Or this kid is going to be in the NBA, and so we're going to do everything that we can to get them into, leagues and all that kind of stuff and just engineer that specific outcome. But the downside of that approach is those kids only know how to do those things that they've been highly trained for. So, if you're like a classical pianist, you only know how to be a classical pianist. You don't know how to wash your underwear, or you don't know how to like cook at least some eggs. So like she was highlighting that of like, there's high specialty, but then there's real deficiency in other areas. And then on the other end is the gardener, which is basically, we've got a solid foundation. We know we have irrigation, everything is as set up as it can be. And also there's hail and rodents and all these things. And we need to figure out, we need to have the resources available and sort of the wherewithal to adapt when circumstances change. And that's harder to do in that carpenter analogy because you're engineering for very specific outcomes. So that means you need to go back to the drawing board and start from scratch, as opposed to that sort of layered evolutionary approach, like we mentioned earlier. So that's been a paradigm I've had in my head for now almost a decade. So I've used it with like leadership coaching. I've used it for thinking about organizational culture and what can be done, and how we can foster a more gardener relationship.